Hello, my name is Mace Hall, and I am here on behalf of the One Lamb Mental Wellness Ministry here at Peachtree Road. And we are talking to people who have dealt with different types of emotional issues. And today we have Meredith Hydrick, who has agreed to come and talk about her anxiety journey. Meredith is a member of Peachtree Road. She and her husband John joined in 2005, and they are parents of Caroline and Jackson Hydrick. Meredith has graciously agreed to talk to us about her anxiety journey. In her words, she said, anxiety will always be a part of her life. It will be something she deals with for the rest of her life. But fortunately, with hard work and therapy and patience and medication and support, Meredith has found a way to live an abundant life where her anxiety isn't such a factor anymore. She knows how to keep those emotions in check. And so we are very thankful for you coming to talk to us, and I'm going to ask you a few questions. As I said to you, we all feel anxious. We all worry. I worry. It's really part of our human condition to feel anxiety and worry, and so I wonder what happened to make you realize that your anxiety wasn't just garden variety anxiety, but something bigger?
I think I remember from a very young age always worrying. I had major phobias of medical situations, doctors, dentists. Just knowing that I'd go in there and they'd tell me I was dying. Like I said, I would worry about if my parents didn't come home on time. They had been in a car accident. Like I was always going to worst case scenario. And I don't really think I knew for a really long time that just wasn't normal, I guess. I would also overwhelm very easily in situations, like if I had a lot thrown at me. It just this little things that most people could deal with kind of shrug off. It would just kind of send my mind just firing. And 2017, I had just taken on way too much of my personal life, taking care of a parent, and I just wasn't taking time for me, and I had a series of panic attacks that whole thing lasted about 3 weeks where I just was not, it didn't stop, it was constant.
So before the panic attacks, like how did the anxiety touch your day-to-day life?
Like I said, at work, I would just feel like really overwhelmed if it got too busy, if too much was going on at one time. It was like I don't know, what do I do now? It was just kind of, I couldn't stop long enough to figure out what to do next. I would do it and I would deal with it, but it was hard. But like I said, I always figured it out. I got my job done. I feel like I did a great job, but just internally, it was hard. And like I said, the worry, I avoided doctors for 10 years without going to a doctor because I just knew that I would go in and get some terrible news. And so I just avoided it.
Wow. It's interesting, actually a family member of mine has said this to me a number of times, that anxiety and worry are a good thing, that they are a motivating factor, and without that push, that urge that if I don't get this right, I've got to work.
Yeah.
And how would you differentiate between anxiety and worry that can feel like an internal motivator and the type that becomes debilitating and makes life more difficult?
I think with me, there was never any great outcome that came from my worry. And my doctor once told me, my psychiatrist that I started seeing during the panic attack, she said, worry should be worry in and worry out. It should kind of be like this. But I would be like worry, 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 and then have a dip of not worry, and then worry, worry. And so it was just kind of, I spent most of my time worried about something that was out of my control or worried about the worst case versus just, a more realistic, let me think about this for a minute, and then, okay, it kind of goes away. Like I said, the main thing really, my anxiety never produced any great outcome, whereas I think a lot of people do. They use it as fuel and are able to use that to power through and get some great project done or something like that, or, do great in school or careers, but that just wasn't the same situation for me.
So in your experience, I'd like you to talk about what you learned about the mind-body connection.
Mm-hmm. That definitely, the mind-body connection definitely really hit home for me coming out of that panic attack period, because my mind had done that to my body. Like, it was really the heart beating fast, not being able to, catch my breath. My mind was doing that because I was thinking about all I had going on, all I had to get done, all the worst case scenarios, and it just all became too much, and I just kind of had a meltdown. So like I said, that to me was really when it hit home. Like, if I can just control the way I think and change my perspective a little bit, I think it'll help greatly, and it has.
So tell me more about that. So how have you harnessed your anxiety?
Well, it really just depends on the situation. Like, a lot of times if I find myself thinking those catastrophic thoughts, I just recognize it and I kind of pull them in. I'm like, okay, wait, I know what I'm doing. Like my therapist has said, if there's a name for it, catastrophic thinking is what she calls it. If there's a name for it, that means enough people do it. That, it's something that's out there. So I recognize it. I try to pull it back. If it's more of a situation where I'm just feeling overwhelmed, she's taught me deep breathing and just ways to kind of just calm myself, step away, take a minute. It just depends on the situation, but it is something daily that I don't get myself to that point anymore where I'm that anxious, because I kind of just stop and evaluate what's going on and go from there.
You've done different treatments.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind talking about that?
No, not at all. I still see a therapist. I will for the rest of my life. She's wonderful, and she has changed my life. I see a psychiatrist who gives me medication. Not a lot, but she's like, let's just start you on this. And so for about 4 years, I was on a dose, and we just actually, the beginning of this year, cut that in half. And so that seems to be going well. I don't know if I'll come off of it. We'll see. Right now, everything's good. So, but Martha also has done a little bit of guided imagery with me, which I was honest with her at the beginning, I wasn't real comfortable with. But she's, again, and that's another key with my journey, is that I've learned to do things and to speak up for myself and do things in baby steps and in ways that isn't too much for me to handle at a time. So like even getting into doctors, I go see doctors now. I've been to all of them. But like my first step, I just made an appointment, and I met with the doctor and we spoke. He didn't touch me, didn't examine me, and I explained my situation, and I found people that just work with me.
What treatments would you say were the most helpful for you?
Therapy and talking through it. Just therapy and talking through it. And that's what works for me. But a lot of other people, it may be something different. That's just, to me, I would be talking with my therapist, and one little thing she would say or something that we would come to together would just click, and it would move me a step forward, I feel like. Like I said, medication is great. Absolutely, there's, especially at the beginning of something like that, I think it's very necessary. But as I've come farther away from that time, I feel like I can control it better just by thinking logically and rationally, and stopping and taking a minute and slowing down and breathing and taking time for myself, which I was not real good at doing.
So, and I think you answered this somewhat, but so what practices are the practices you employ every day to kind of like keep those anxious feelings at bay?
I was just putting a lot of emphasis on the little things that don't matter as much. And so now I'm able to put those in perspective. And like I said, check in with myself. And I don't, on a daily basis, feel the anxiety anymore. But when I do, and when it does creep up, I recognize it. And I'm able to just kind of act and use what I've learned.
As you progress, so you're not feeling the anxious, so your daily life has improved.
Mm-hmm.
Have there been any other unexpected gifts?
The biggest gift that I have, and this is very specific to my situation, but is just walking out of a doctor's office and knowing that I've had those tests done, and knowing my body, knowing where it is. I didn't know if I was healthy, sick, and I really didn't know, because I had spent so much time avoiding doctors. But that is such a gift to have a picture, my blood work, a picture of I've done everything now, mammograms, chest x-rays, everything, just to have that done and know that somewhere out there's a good picture of what's going on, and I don't have to have that hanging over me anymore, not knowing if I was a healthy person or not. I know that's kind of specific, but that's just been the biggest gift to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that was your main phobia.
Yeah. So that's just it's been a weight lifted off.
What advice would you give persons who are dealing with crippling anxiety, the kind you are experiencing?
If you could recognize it and ask for help before it gets to that point, great. But I don't know that I would have. But just try to reach out and ask for help. And it can be done. It can be tailored to you. That's one thing I didn't know. I hate to use the word control, but I felt like I wasn't going to have a lot of control or say-so with therapy or this journey, or even like actual medical doctors. In those situations, I can say, no, I don't want that test, or I don't want you to do this to me. I didn't realize that, but you can. You find people that'll work with you. I took very small steps, and I would get that done, and I look to the next step. So it's possible. I remember sitting in my therapist's office, and she was telling me about a lady that had anxiety, and the lady was like, I don't even know now what that felt like. And I thought, that'll never be me. And I do know what it feels like. I'll always remember. But it's just not part of my daily life like it was. It doesn't control me like it used to.
That is awesome. I was walking the other day, and I saw a woman who had on a T-shirt that said, "Be a warrior, not a worrier."
I like that.
And that's what you've done.
Yeah.
You've battled it.
Yeah, I have. And like I said, it's been a long, slow process. At the beginning, when I was having panic attacks and went in, I did have some immediate relief, just knowing I was dealing with it, knowing I was getting help. But then just the journey of taking each piece of it and each part of it and looking at why I worry, why I feel overwhelmed, why I'm scared of doctors, it's been 4 or 5 year journey. And it's something I'll always keep in check or work to keep in check.
Well, I'm so appreciative of your taking the time to talk to us. And one of the main things we're trying to do with the One Lamb Mental Wellness Ministry is bring these topics to light and have these kind of conversations that sometimes people aren't comfortable having, but with the belief that we need to have these conversations. We need to normalize these conversations. We need to destigmatize these conversations, because mental health is health, just like medical health is. So thank you so much for reaching out to us and telling us your story. And for all of you out there seeing this, I hope this has been a helpful conversation. It certainly has been for me.
Definitely, I hope so.
Thank you.